I'm 52 years old, and 3 months ago I captured something on video that I should have destroyed immediately. Instead, I kept it. And now I understand why some secrets are meant to stay buried in the mountains where they belong. My name is Marcus Chen, and I'm a wildlife documentary filmmaker. For 20 years, I've traveled to every continent filming rare species for National Geographic, BBC, Animal Planet. I've filmed snow leopards in the Himalayas, jaguars in the Amazon, gorillas in Rwanda. I've dedicated my life to capturing the natural world on camera. But what I filmed in the Cascade Mountains of Northern California last August wasn't natural. Or maybe it was too natural, too intelligent, too aware of exactly what it was doing. And when it realized I was recording, everything changed. This is that story. And I need to tell it before someone else does, before the footage leaks, before the government finds me again. June 2024. The assignment seemed routine. A producer at Discovery Channel wanted B-roll footage of Pacific Northwest wilderness for a new series about unexplored American forests. They wanted atmospheric shots, morning mist through old-growth trees, wildlife at dawn, the kind of footage that makes viewers feel the mystery of deep woods. "We're calling it America's Last Wilderness," the producer told me over the phone. "We want that sense of the unknown, Marcus, that feeling that there are still places humans haven't completely conquered." I took the job. 6 weeks in Northern California, camping in the remote Klamath Mountains near the Oregon border. The pay was good, the location was beautiful, and after filming penguins in Antarctica for 3 months, I welcomed the milder climate. I arrived in early July, setting up a base camp about 40 miles from the nearest town. This wasn't my first solo filming trip. I actually preferred working alone. No crew to coordinate, no personalities to manage, just me, my equipment, and the wilderness. My setup was professional but mobile. A high-end 4K camera with night vision capabilities, several trail cameras for overnight wildlife monitoring, audio recording equipment, a drone for aerial shots, and a satellite communicator for emergencies. I'd learned long ago that the best wildlife footage comes from patience and technology working together. The first 3 weeks were productive. I captured beautiful sequences, a black bear teaching cubs to fish, Roosevelt elk moving through morning fog, an incredible time-lapse of stars wheeling over ancient redwoods, exactly what the network wanted. But I also noticed things that didn't fit standard wildlife patterns. Trees snapped at 8 feet high, far too tall for any bear. Footprints near my camp that looked almost human, but were 14 inches long with a stride that suggested something massive. Vocalizations at night that weren't quite wolf, weren't quite mountain lion, something deeper, more resonant, almost structured like language, but in a register I'd never heard. I'm a scientist. I don't jump to conclusions, but I've spent 2 decades filming wildlife, and I know when something doesn't fit established patterns. On July 28th, I decided to set up cameras in the area where I'd heard the vocalizations, not trail cams, my main filming equipment, including high-quality audio recorders. If there was an undocumented large predator in the area, capturing it would be the footage of a lifetime. I chose a location near a creek about 2 miles from base camp, positioning 3 cameras at different angles to cover maximum area, all camouflaged and set to motion activation. I also set up a portable blind, essentially a small tent disguised to look like natural brush, where I could monitor the cameras remotely and take over manual control if needed. Then I waited. For 5 nights, nothing unusual. Deer, raccoons, a few coyotes. I was starting to think I'd wasted my time. But on August 3rd, everything changed. The first contact. I was in the blind around 11 p.m. reviewing footage from earlier that day when my motion sensor alert pinged. Something large had entered the camera coverage area. I switched to live feed and felt my breath catch. A figure was moving through the frame, massive, easily 7 feet tall, maybe more, covered in dark hair that caught the moonlight, walking upright with a gait that was definitely bipedal but not quite human. The shoulders were too broad, the arms too long, the movement too fluid for a person in costume. My heart was hammering. In 20 years of wildlife filming, I'd never felt this combination of excitement and primal fear. The creature moved to the creek and knelt down, drinking directly from the water. In the infrared, I could see incredible detail, the musculature beneath the hair, the way the hands, not paws, but actual hands with opposable thumbs, cupped the water with almost human delicacy. I should have stayed silent. Should have just filmed and been grateful for the impossible footage I was capturing. But I'm human, and humans are curious. "Hello?" I called out softly. The creature's head snapped up. Even in the darkness, I could see it was looking directly at my blind. The cameras were hidden, but I'd spoken from an obvious location. It stood slowly, water dripping from its hands. It was even larger standing, at least 7.5 feet tall. The face, partially visible in the moonlight, was a disturbing blend of ape and human features. Prominent brow ridge, broad nose, but the eyes had a depth that made my skin crawl with recognition. This wasn't an animal. This was something else. "I'm not going to hurt you," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "I'm just filming wildlife. You don't have to run." The creature tilted its head, studying me. Then, in a voice that was deep and resonant but unmistakably articulated, it spoke. "You should not be here. I nearly fell out of my blind. Perfect English, not garbled, not primitive. Clear, grammatically correct English with an accent I couldn't place. Something between British and Scandinavian, refined and educated." You can speak?" I stammered. "Obviously," the creature replied, with what I can only describe as irritation. "Though I would prefer not to. Your kind has a tendency to complicate things." My mind was reeling. This wasn't just an unknown primate. This was an intelligent linguistic being. This was first contact with a species that wasn't supposed to exist. "What are you?" I asked. The creature made a sound, not quite a laugh, but close. "You have stories about us, Sasquatch, your people call us, though we have older names from before your kind dominated this land. We thought you were myth. Yes, we worked very hard to maintain that impression, and yet here you are, with your cameras and your curiosity, threatening to undo centuries of careful obscurity." It stepped closer. In the moonlight, I could see its face more clearly now. The features were indeed simian, but the expression was purely human, intelligent, calculating, almost amused. "How long have you been... your people, how long have you been hiding?" The creature, I was starting to think of it as he based on the voice, moved closer still. "Always. We were here before you. When your ancestors crossed the land bridge, we were already ancient. We learned quickly that coexistence with humans was inadvisable. Your kind exterminates what it fears and captures what it finds curious. We chose a third option. We became stories, myths, things that people see but never prove. We've been very successful at it. Until now," I said quietly. "Until now," he agreed. "Though I'm curious, Marcus Chen, what you intend to do with this knowledge." The use of my name made me freeze. "How do you know my name?" "We've been watching you for 3 weeks. We know everything in our territory. We read the labels on your equipment cases. We listen to you talking to yourself while you work. We know more about you than you might find comfortable. There are more of you. There are enough, fewer than there once were, but enough to maintain our communities. We've adapted. We learned your languages, your technologies from a distance, your patterns. We've survived by being smarter than you assume we are." He moved to a fallen log and sat down, an incongruously human gesture that made the whole scene even more surreal. "You're a documentarian," he continued. "I've watched you film. You're patient, respectful of the animals you observe. So I'm going to make you an offer that I wouldn't make to most of your kind. I'm going to ask you to delete that footage and forget this conversation." "I can't do that," I said automatically. This is the most important discovery in modern history. For you, perhaps. For us, it would be extinction." "I wouldn't." "Yes, you would. You wouldn't mean to, but you would. One person tells another. Footage gets analyzed, locations get triangulated, scientists arrive, then reporters, then trophy hunters, then tourists. Within a year, our remaining territories would be overrun. Within 5 years, we'd be captured, studied, possibly protected in reserves where your kind could observe us like zoo animals. Within 10 years, we'd be gone, either dead or so fundamentally changed that we might as well be. The weight of his words settled on me. He was right, of course. I knew enough about human nature to know exactly how this would unfold. But the world should know you exist, I said weakly. You're incredible. You're proof that intelligence evolved along multiple paths, that your kind isn't as special as you think. He stood up. Marcus, I'm going to tell you something that might help you understand. We know what you are. We've known for thousands of years. We've watched your civilizations rise and fall. We've seen what humans do to anything they can't control or profit from, and we made a choice: survival over recognition, obscurity over extinction. He took a step toward my blind, and I instinctively moved back. I'm not going to hurt you, he said, and there was gentleness in his voice now. But I am going to ask you once more. Delete the footage. Walk away. Make your documentary about forests and bears and leave us out of it. In return, I promise you'll come to no harm. You'll finish your work here peacefully and go home with a secret that, yes, will be hard to carry, but that will save lives. Not just ours, yours too. The people who want to keep us hidden aren't all as reasonable as I'm being. What people? But he was already moving back toward the trees. Delete the footage, Marcus, for both our sakes. Then he was gone, melting into the forest with impossible silence. I sat in my blind until dawn, shaking, my mind trying to process what had just happened. The decision I should have made. I didn't delete the footage. I know I should have. Every ethical bone in my body screamed at me to honor his request, to respect his people's right to privacy, to survival. But I'm also a documentarian, and the scientist in me couldn't let this go. I told myself I'd be careful. I'd keep it secret until I figured out what to do. I'd study the footage, verify it wasn't some elaborate hoax, then maybe find a way to prove their existence that somehow wouldn't endanger them. I was lying to myself, of course. There was no scenario where revealing intelligent Sasquatch wouldn't fundamentally change their lives forever. But I kept the footage. For 3 days, I avoided the creek area. I worked on other parts of the project, filming safe, normal wildlife. I reviewed the footage obsessively, analyzing every frame. The audio was clear, his voice, his words, his perfect English. The video showed details that would be impossible to fake. The way light reflected off his eyes, the muscle movement beneath the hair, the natural biomechanics of his gait. This was real. All of it. On August 7th, I returned to the creek. Not to film, I left the cameras off, just to see if he'd appear again. He did, emerging from the trees around midnight. You didn't delete it, he said, not a question. I need more time to think about. You need time to convince yourself that betraying us is justified. He sat on the same log as before. I understand, actually. You've spent your life documenting the natural world. Finding us is like finding a living dinosaur. How could you possibly let that go? It's not just about me, I said. What you represent, what your people have survived, that's a story the world needs to hear. The world needs to hear it, or you need to tell it. His voice was sharp now. Be honest, Marcus. How much of this is about scientific importance, and how much is about your career? The documentarian who proved Bigfoot exists? The man who changed everything? That's a legacy, isn't it? I felt my face flush with shame because he was right. But here's what you're not considering, he continued. You think you're choosing between silence and revelation. But there's a third option you haven't thought about. What happens when others learn you have this footage and want it for themselves? What do you mean? He leaned forward. Your government, several governments actually, know we exist. They've known for decades. They've kept it secret not out of kindness, but because they couldn't control the narrative. Occasionally they capture one of us. Those individuals are never seen again. Usually they maintain plausible deniability, let us stay in the realm of myth. But someone with proof, actual documented evidence, that person becomes a target. You're saying the government would come after me? I'm saying you're being watched right now, have been since our first conversation. They monitor communications in areas where we've been reported. Your satellite transmissions, your equipment signatures, you've been on their radar. They're just waiting to see if you found anything worth suppressing. A chill ran down my spine. If they're watching, why haven't they stopped me? Because so far you haven't tried to transmit the footage. The moment you do, the moment you try to upload it, email it, or carry it out of this area, they'll intervene. And then you'll face a choice: cooperate with them or disappear. This is insane. This is reality. Our reality, anyway. He stood up. I've tried reason. I've explained the consequences. So now I'm going to make this simple. Tomorrow night, come back here. Bring your footage, all of it, including backups. Let me destroy it in front of you. Then go home, finish your project, and live your life. Or don't come, keep the footage, and accept what happens next. And if I choose not to come? His expression was unreadable in the darkness. Then we'll know you've chosen your career over our lives, and we'll act accordingly. We're peaceful, Marcus, but we're not helpless. We've survived this long by being very, very good at protecting ourselves. He disappeared into the forest, leaving me alone with my conscience and my cameras. The thing I didn't know. I spent August 8th preparing to do the right thing. I'd go to the creek, bring the footage, let him destroy it. It was the only ethical choice. But that afternoon, something happened that changed everything. I was at my base camp when I heard vehicles approaching. Impossible in this terrain unless you had off-road capability and knew exactly where you were going. 2 black SUVs appeared through the trees, and 6 people in civilian clothes got out. The woman who approached me was in her 40s, professional, with the kind of calm authority that comes from significant government experience. Mr. Chen, I'm Agent Sarah Vance, Department of Interior. We need to talk about your research activities in this area. My blood ran cold. He'd been right. They had been watching. I'm just filming wildlife for a documentary, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. We know exactly what you're filming, and we know you've had contact with a protected species whose existence is classified under national security regulations. We need to see your footage. I don't know what you're talking about. Vance smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Mr. Chen, we're not here to threaten you. We're actually here to help you understand the situation you've stumbled into. May we? She gestured to my camp table. I had no choice but to nod. The beings you've encountered are called different things, Vance began. Sasquatch, Bigfoot, the elders of the forest. Depends on the regional folklore. We've known about them since the 1920s. Small populations exist in remote areas across the Pacific Northwest, parts of the Rockies, and similar terrain in other countries. They're incredibly intelligent, highly reclusive, and potentially dangerous if cornered. He wasn't dangerous, I said before I could stop myself. He was just trying to protect his people. He spoke to you? Vance leaned forward. That's rare, very rare. In 70 years of monitoring these populations, we've documented fewer than 20 instances of them voluntarily speaking English to humans. You must have impressed him somehow. He asked me to delete the footage. I'm sure he did, and I'm here to make the same request, but with more context. Mr. Chen, do you know what would happen if proof of their existence went public? Not speculation, proof, video of one speaking English? I thought about what he'd told me. Tourism, scientists, hunters. Worse, panic. Religious extremists claiming they're demons or angels. Conspiracy theorists claiming government cover-ups, which, to be fair, exist. Property values in rural areas collapsing because people are terrified. Trophy hunters paying millions for a chance to shoot one. And then the legitimate questions. Do they have rights? Are they human? Can we study them? What diseases might they carry? The legal, ethical, and practical chaos would be unprecedented. So you want to keep pretending they don't exist? We want to keep them safe, Vance said firmly. And yes, that requires maintaining their mythological status. It's not a perfect solution, but it's worked for a century. These beings have survived by staying hidden. We help them stay that way. By threatening people like me? By asking people like you to understand the bigger picture. Mr. Chen, I've read your work. You're respected in your field because you have integrity. You've never sensationalized footage, never exploited your subjects. I'm asking you to extend that same respect to this situation. I sat in silence for a long moment. What if I refuse? Vance's expression hardened slightly. Then we confiscate your equipment under national security protocols. The footage disappears. You sign a non-disclosure agreement with serious legal consequences for violation, and you spend the rest of your career wondering if you made the right choice, because you'll never be able to talk about what you saw. That's not a choice. It's the only choice we can offer that lets you walk away freely. Mr. Chen, I'm not the enemy here. I'm someone who's trying to protect an endangered species and the documentarian who stumbled onto them. Help me do both. They left an hour later, but their message was clear. Delete the footage, or they'd take it from me. That night, I went to the creek one last time. The truth I learned. Too late. He was waiting for me when I arrived. They came to see you, he said. It wasn't a question. How did you? We have arrangements with certain government officials. The ones like Vance, who actually want to protect us rather than study us. She told us she'd spoken with you. Did she convince you? I sat down on the ground, suddenly exhausted. I don't know what to believe anymore. You say you want to hide. They say they want to protect you. Everyone agrees the footage has to be destroyed, but nobody's giving me a real choice. He was quiet for a moment, then he did something unexpected. He moved closer and sat down next to me, not threatening, almost companionable. Let me tell you a story, he said. 50 years ago, one of our young males was captured. He'd been injured, couldn't move fast enough to escape. Hunters found him, and instead of shooting him, they called authorities. The government took him to a facility. They studied him for 3 years. They weren't cruel. They fed him, housed him comfortably, treated him well. But he wasn't free. He couldn't speak to them because he knew it would make things worse. So he pretended to be a simple animal while they ran their tests and documented everything about him. What happened to him? He died. The stress, the isolation from his people, the constant testing, he just gave up. They called it cardiac failure. We call it what it really was, a broken spirit. He was my uncle, and that's why I'm so adamant about staying hidden, because the best case scenario, the one where humans want to protect us, still means cages, still means losing ourselves. I felt tears on my face. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I know you are. That's why I'm telling you this, not to manipulate you, but to help you understand what's really at stake. It's not just our privacy, it's our ability to remain who we are. He stood up slowly. Marcus Chen, I'm going to give you what you really came here for, the truth. We are intelligent. We have language, culture, history. We're not human, but we're not animals either. We're something else, and we deserve to exist on our own terms. That's the story. That's what you wanted to know. Now you know it, and you'll carry it for the rest of your life. The question is that enough? Or do you need the world to know too? I looked up at him, this impossible being who spoke with more wisdom than most humans I'd met. The footage, I said quietly. It's in my camera bag, all of it. He nodded. Show me. I pulled out the hard drives, the SD cards, every piece of storage media that contained evidence of our encounters. He took them carefully in his massive hands. And the backups? He asked gently. Cloud storage, but I haven't uploaded the important parts yet. I can delete it remotely. Will you? I pulled out my satellite communicator and pulled up the cloud interface. My finger hovered over the delete button. 20 years of work building toward this moment. The most important footage I'd ever captured. Proof of something that would change everything. I pressed delete. He watched as the files disappeared one by one from the remote servers. Thank you, he said. Then he smashed the hard drives against a rock, methodically destroying each one until nothing remained but broken plastic and scattered circuitry. Your career, he began. We'll be fine. I have enough other footage for the documentary. Nobody will know what I really found here. He studied me for a long moment. You're a good person, Marcus Chen. I'm sorry this discovery brought you pain instead of joy. Will I ever see you again? No. We're moving our community deeper into the wilderness. It's time. Your kind is encroaching too much, and we need more distance. But I want you to know, you gave us something valuable today. You gave us more time. Maybe another century of peace. That's worth something. It has to be, I said. He turned to leave, then paused. In case you're wondering, yes, this encounter will haunt you. Yes, you'll question your decision. But Marcus, you chose to protect something rare instead of exploiting it. In your world, that's becoming increasingly rare too. Be proud of that. Then he was gone, disappearing into the forest one final time. What happened after I finished my documentary work over the next 3 weeks? Beautiful footage of ordinary wildlife, exactly what the network wanted. No one suspected anything unusual had happened. Agent Vance visited me once more before I left, thanking me for understanding the situation and assuring me that my cooperation was noted and appreciated. She never explicitly mentioned the destroyed footage, but we both knew what she meant. I returned home to Seattle in September. The documentary aired in October to decent reviews. My career continued normally, but nothing was normal anymore. I think about him constantly, about our conversations, about the weight of the secret I carry. Sometimes I wonder if I made the right choice. I could have kept one copy, hidden it better, found a way to reveal it that somehow protected them, but deep down, I know the truth. There is no good way to reveal the existence of an intelligent species that doesn't want to be known. Any disclosure, no matter how carefully managed, would have destroyed their way of life. I'm 52 years old. I've filmed some of the rarest creatures on Earth, but the rarest thing I ever found, the most important discovery of my career, will remain secret until the day I die. Sometimes late at night, I wonder if they're still out there, deeper in the wilderness now, maintaining their impossible invisibility. I hope they are. I hope they have centuries more of peace before humanity finally encroaches on their last territories. And sometimes, just sometimes, I let myself feel proud that I chose to protect something precious instead of claiming credit for finding it. That's the real story, not the one anyone will see, but the one that actually matters. The Bigfoot who spoke perfect English taught me something important. Some truths are more valuable when they remain hidden. Some mysteries should stay mysteries, and sometimes the greatest act of discovery is choosing not to share what you found. I destroyed the footage, I kept the secret, and I'd do it again.